Hello everybody and welcome to Geopolitical Trends. My name is David Oualaalou. So good to be with you as always. French President Emmanuel Macron will be going to China. So just for a second, imagine this. French President Emmanuel Macron cut a deal for his country and leave Europe high and dry. So the question is that we all need to ask is, why all of a sudden Emmanuel Macron, French president that is, wants to go to China? In this video, I am going to provide you some answers and put this within the global geopolitical context. But before I do all this, as always, I like to extend my thanks to the channel members and also subscribers. Thank you all for your support. And for you, if this is your first time landing on this channel, please make sure to subscribe and hit the notification button so you will be notified every time I either release a video or come on the air. And I thank you all for your support. I want to give you a heads up before I delve deeper into this. There are bot spams that's going on using my picture and posting irrelevant comments. So for all our audience here, because you all know by now the type of comments that I will put. So usually you will know. One thing for sure, I will never ask you for your private information and I will never ask you for donations. So if you notice any of those comments, please make sure to report it. Yeah, you can delete that by reporting it so YouTube can figure that stuff out. And I went ahead and deleted some in the last video that I posted. And thank you all for bringing that to my attention. Actually, it was one of our viewers from our audience here that brought it up to my attention. Thank you so much. So let's dive into this topic. Here is what's interesting about this. Only one day after Beijing revealed a peace plan for the Ukraine-Russia conflict. Only one day. French President Emmanuel Macron said that he will travel to China in April, next 2 months or so. And also want us to see how China could put pressure on Russia to stop the war in Ukraine. How ludicrous that is. When it was in reality, it was his country that was pushing and fomenting the tensions in Ukraine. Now you are asking China to put pressure on Russia? You know, that's just contradictory to reality. You can't be saying one thing and doing another, which seems to be the trait now for all Western leaders. So in an effort to maintain close ties with Russia, China published a 12-point position document just 2 days ago that urged for an immediate peace talks and political sort of settlement and resolution to put an end to this conflict. I had a chance to read the 12 points, and I will detail all this during the live stream this coming weekend. So when I read it, it made perfect sense to me. It's realistic, it's pragmatic. I'll give you just a quick example. For example, the first point into this plan, it says, and I quote here, the negotiations must take place on a foundation of respect for the sovereignty of all countries, universally recognized international law, and so forth. So I read it all, the 12 points, it's common sense. But here's the interesting aspects of it. The United States has already rejected Chinese initiative. And I can tell you why. Why? Because the West does not want a peaceful resolution to this conflict, let alone it's coming from a country outside the Western world. That is what's at the heart of it. So even Ukrainian President comedian Zelensky expressed interest in meeting his Chinese counterpart, President Xi Jinping, and referred to it as, and I put this in quote, essential for international security, end of quote. What a joke. Actually, it will be a mistake for China to meet with Zelensky. You know why? Because that means they open up the global platform for Zelensky the same way Western Europe are doing, or the West, that is, are doing, which is a joke. You know, comedian Z has no clue about geopolitics, has no clue about international relations, let alone he can enter into negotiations without the approval of his master. That's the bottom line to it. And let's just state the facts as they are. So let us cut through the noise. Why the French president is really going to China for? Well, here is the quick answer. Of course, this is just a short version of it, because it will take us about 2-3 hours to just lay out the arguments for this. But the bottom line is the economic interests of France, not the EU, not the West. He doesn't care for that. Because the issue that looms large right now is the anti-war, anti-protest demonstrations taking place in France, Germany, Italy, the UK, and other places. And yet, the media is lying about it. And I'm going to provide you an example, and I'll put the link for you to see it with your own eyes. And here's the example. On February 27th, which is just a day ago or two, Euronews, in conjunction with AP, Associated Press, and AFP, published an article. And it says at the top of it, and I'm going to quote here, tens of thousands of people continue to take to the streets in cities across Europe and all around the world over the weekend to protest, get this guys, against Russia's invasion of Ukraine, end of quote, which is a lie. The demonstrations are against the government's supplying weapons to Ukraine. It's anti-war demonstrations. So do you see how media can manipulate? And you have to be very smart and aware of how to read between the lines. So to me personally, this is nothing but an evidence of how Western media is lying about it. So, and by the way, AFP claimed to be a leading news agency providing fast, comprehensive, and verifiable coverage of events shaping our world. Would you trust AFP? I would not. Based on this, knowing what I know, and I contacted my people in Europe, the demonstrations that are taking place in Europe is about the war, anti-war. It's not in support of, we gotta support the Ukraine and all that stuff. It's a lie, basically what it is. And this is, by the way, FYI, I'm gonna be discussing this in detail during live stream this coming weekend. I hope you can join me for that one. So, and I'm gonna provide you here some samples, just brief ones. In Italy, for example, thousands of Italians have demonstrated across the country, in Rome, in Florence, and Genoa, against Western sanctions imposed on Russia and the transfer of lethal weapon or military hardware, that is, to Ukraine. Only one day after the first year anniversary of the conflict. You'll see the difference. You remember the statement that I read to you from the Euronews versus what's going on in Italy? So, and by the way, guys, if you like this video so far, please hit that subscription button and hit the like button also, and I appreciate your support. So here's the thing. In UK and France, there are also demonstrations there. Thousands of protesters have taken to the streets in London and Paris. And I confirmed this with my own contacts. I mean, I've been disclosing this before. I have family who lives in France, and I have family who lives in London as well. So both London and Paris, as well as other cities, as I mentioned, in Berlin, for example. So, and this is across Europe, demanding an end to the ongoing war in Ukraine and urging the Western governments to stop supplying Kiev with weapons. Once again, I find that, I get a little bit uptight about, how media will lie and manipulate the masses. Yet there are those people who will not know how to differentiate between certain whatever is stated here. And yet this is the evidence of it. That's why prompt me to come on the air right away and record this video for you, so before, because you're gonna be bombarded with information from different news outlets saying what is not true. I'm gonna share also with you a statement that just been posted in Berlin by the protesters, and it says, and I quote, "We call on the German Chancellor to stop the escalation of arms deliveries, because every day lost costs up to 1,000 more lives and brings us closer to a third world war," the protesters' organizers said on their website. There were also banners, big banners, that it says, and I quote here, "Negotiate, not escalate." It just shows you right there. Some other banners, it says, for example, "Not our war." All this an indication for where things are headed. And this is again what made me think about having a live stream this coming weekend to address this issue, because there are certain things you need to know about the anti-war demonstrations. So here is the bottom line, just to go back to our main topic here. The French president's trip to China, he wants to secure a political victory by saying, "We brought peace to Europe." Because if China's peace initiative is adopted, which I don't foresee, because the US already rejected that, if that happens, France will be saying, "Hey, we want to China, convince them, and now we brought peace to Europe." And also, French president has a different calculations, and this one is an economic one, is to ensure France's economic interest in accessing Chinese market. That is the reason why, despite what you hear, he is thinking, knowing that now it's been confirmed, and I did the video for you guys about Germany is going to be losing about 160 billion euros in productivity. France wants to avoid that outcome. But France is also, Emmanuel Macron is thinking, if I could keep the population calm, because protest, I said this way back when the conflict started. If there is to be a change in the outcome, it's going to happen in Europe, not in the US. Even for us in the United States, we had demonstrations last weekend in Washington, D.C. There were thousands of people. They went to anti-war rally, okay? And guess what happened after that? Only a few days after, it was another rally pro-war. There were about 500 people or so, showing signs that says we are supporting Ukraine and all that. So it shows you right there what the media is saying versus what the reality is. And I am here to differentiate facts from fictions, so for you to have a clear picture, but of course you reach your own conclusion. So as I mentioned earlier, I will be doing a live stream, so make sure to leave me some of your questions if you would like me to answer them, and I truly will look forward to seeing you in a live stream. As always, remember, geopolitics impact your daily life in more ways than one. Till next time, guys. Bye-bye.